Hello everyone, this is Bob and Threadbare, and welcome back to LA Noire. That flag texture is kind of awful.
Okay, we're gonna keep this short. I'm already late for the DA. First up, Phelps, Bukowski. We got a report of a brand new Packard abandoned in an empty lot off 2nd Street between Olive and Grand. PR is one Oswald Jacobs says the vehicle was dumped in his backyard. There's a patrolman on site. Get down there and see what you can turn up. Any questions? Good, get going.
PR stands for person or party reporting.
Better go earn our pathetic wages.
Alright, but before that, let's just switch back to my other outfit here. There we go.
I want to make homicide. You know you made it.
Rimsky, O'Halloran. Intelligence has information on a stolen car racket.
That bum took a swipe and put him down in
An
my
abandoned
sack.
vehicle. Catch all the good ones, huh, Phelps?
Sounds like there's more to it than that. Nobody dumps a shiny new Packard unless they borrowed it without asking.
You don't say. You were on fire today, Einstein.
Very funny.
Come on, my intense protege. Let's go save the world.
That's not the right car. Ah, there's the right car. Although we could take the police vehicle if we wanted to.
You know the way. You can drive.
You hear about Adrian? Broad in Seattle threw him out. Wife says she's gonna take him back.
Women generally show more compassion.
What are you talking about? Adrian dumped on her. He was humping the secretary. Margaret should show some pride.
Pride comes before a fall, Bukowski. Talking from experience.
Okay, there's pride, and then there's letting a guy walk all over you. Which is what Adrian's wife is doing.
Phelps, traffic.
I'm Officer Houlihan. Car's down the alleyway, detectives.
We got a call about an abandoned vehicle.
Yes, sir. The car has flags. Might be some kind of diplomatic vehicle?
Has anyone touched this vehicle since you arrived?
No. And that Jacobs bird over there was on station before I got here.
We'll talk with him in a moment. Give us some time to look the place over.
Sure, take your time. He's a sore-headed old son of a bitch anyway.
What now?
Check the car and the surrounds. This is a crime scene. We don't want anything missed.
Pretty sure it's a crime scene. And they've already put up the evidence flags.
Give me some room, huh? I have to get this done.
Look out. I need to get to the washroom before this stuff on my hand starts to burn.
What's on his hand?
Combination wrench. Must have used it to remove the wheel lugs.
How do you use a combination wrench to remove lugs?
I swear to God. A real needle in a real haystack. They expected me to find it.
We'll have to use the registration to trace the owner.
I mean, at least it would make sense if you used the combination wrench to remove the license plates.
Stealing the wheels is for amateurs. Car ring would have stripped it in a warehouse.
It's also kind of curious that only the one tire is missing. Also one of the flags, but I can't seem to click on that.
Empty.
Oh, the spare is missing too. You can see where it's supposed to go on the right there.
It's owned by the Argentinian embassy.
Alright, well, the music's still going. Like I said, I need to look at that flag.
Don't think this is any use to us.
Yes, that was just there. You can see the tire marks here on the ground.
Look, Buster, we all have work to do here, and you weren't helping.
Something big, right?
Yeah, just figure there might be something else around here, so... How about you? Did you see anything?
I don't know why you're doing that, buddy, but I wish you'd stop.
Investigating? I'm afraid I can't do that, man. Also, why is he taking photos of this baseball?
I don't think so.
That's not really evidence. Now he's taking a picture of a bottle. Nothing in the trash cans. Yeah, if I could just figure out what angle to look at these flags from. It's not doing a little...
So what next?
Have a good look inside and around the vehicle. See what you can find.
It's not doing a little noise anywhere. That little piano sting. Oh, there it is. Fuck. God damn.
You must have taken the flag as a souvenir. Can't have it any street value.
Looks like he must have printed off by hand based on the way it's bent out like that.
Help me out.
We better see what this Jacobs guy has to say. The car was dumped in his backyard, after all.
Oswald Jacobs?
That's right.
What exactly happened here, Mr. Jacobs?
Last night, I was looking out of my window. I like to keep an eye on what's going on.
I can understand that.
You see this empty lot? Damn kids play stickball here. Always breaking my windows, always asking for their ball back.
Can we get back to the car, Mr. Jacobs?
Don't be impatient, Sonny. Anyways, last night I see this brand spanking new Packard up on bricks.
Fair enough.
Did you see who stole the Packard?
Hell yes, I did. I saw 3 goddamn Mexicans going to work on it.
Uh-huh.
You're lying, Mr. Jacobs. I think you're covering for someone.
Well, you must know something I don't.
It's nothing personal. I'm just doing my job. You understand that? Can you tell us what they were doing?
Using the headlights of an old Ford so they could strip the thing. I yelled out to them, "I'll call the cops." So they loaded up their car and drove off, tooting and hollering and yelling obscenities at me in Mexican.
You speak Spanish, sir?
No, I do not.
I would have thought that would be self-evident at this point. But this does explain why there was only one wheel up on bricks.
After the Mexicans left, you didn't go anywhere near the car?
After I scared them off? No, I didn't go anywhere near that car.
Yeah, sure.
How do you know there were 3 of them? It was dark. It must be 50 feet from the kitchen to the car.
You telling me I'm lying?
Looks like I made a mistake. You went out to the car. Once they were gone, you had to take a look for yourself.
I was curious. Ain't no law against that. So what if I took a look around that car? You can't be accusing me of nothing.
Tell me about the car they were driving.
It was an old Ford. I didn't catch the license number.
You were drunk and it was dark. What's with the smoke screen about the car, Jacobs?
You got better information about that vehicle than I'm giving you. You better use it.
Sorry. My mistake. You look like the kind of guy who notices details.
You're right there. The car was old, but it looked brand new. Candy apple red paint job stands out a mile.
What exactly did you see them take?
They was working on the tires. That's all that was took.
It's clearly not all that was took.
Right. So what did you take, Jacobs? Do you want my partner to pat you down?
I found a notebook in the glove compartment. I was going to show you. It's on the chair on my porch.
Thank you for your help, Mr. Jacobs. You can speak to Officer Thibault about signing a formal statement.
When you get the car out of the way, maybe you could come back and do something about those kids.
Well, how about we bring you an umpire's mask?
All right, investigation music is back on.
Okay, so we have the owner of the vehicle, a degenerate. I'll run John Madsen by R&I.
Sure are a lot of names and personal descriptions. Based on the name on the front, maybe something involving, you know, homosexuality. Also, I must have missed that prompt there, because there is another page worth looking at.
Contact details on a William Dewey. This looks like business rather than pleasure.
I can hardly tell the difference. At least compared to the other number, I mean.
I think we've wrung this place dry. Let's find a game well.
Gamewell is these little police and fire post boxes. Basically, before phones became a thing, these were used to contact the fire department.
Phelps, badge 1247.
How could I help, Detective?
And obviously the police as well.
Could you run the name Dewey Brothers? Possibly a dealership or car mechanics workshop.
One moment. Dewey Brothers Packard Dealership, 629 Figueroa Street.
Got it. Can you put me through to Michigan 2458, please?
Connecting you now.
6-digit telephone number.
Hello, can I help you?
LAPD, ma'am. Can I speak to John Madsen, please?
He's at school, officer. What's this about? Is he in trouble?
How old is your boy, ma'am?
Just turned 16.
Wrong person, Mrs. Madsen. Sorry to disturb you. Any messages?
There's just one message for you, Detective. A four-door Packard, diplomatic license number Paul Robert 706, was reported missing this morning by Juan Francisco Valdez.
Could you have him brought in?
He's already here at Central, Detective. He's demanding an audience, as he calls it.
Thanks. Can you get a message to Captain Leary? Tell him we'll be in as soon as we can. Thank you.
Well, that's fucked up.
Can you cordon off this lot until we have the vehicle impounded?
Yes, sir, Detective.
We'll follow up on the owner. Get a statement from Jacobs, and I'll read your report back at the station.
We can visit the Packard dealership or head back to Central and interview this Valdez character. Your call.
Well, Valdez really only gets us more clues. And the dealership leads us directly to the suspect, so let's head back to Central.
Can you drive to this one?
This has got to be the 50th abandoned vehicle call we have caught this year. One more, and I'm going to go crazy.
Not your favorite cases?
You kidding me? This is barely even police work. Of all the bad guys in this city, we get lumped with the ones who can't even be bothered to keep what they steal.
Do we have a Juan Francisco Valdez in for questioning?
Sure do, Phelps. Your bird's an interview, too. And get this, he's wearing gloves and doing his best not to touch anything. Can you beat that?
Sounds like we don't want to keep this guy waiting. It's this way.
You don't want to make homicide. You know you've got it made if you can get to that desk.
Weren't even his prints, and he still confessed.
About time. Are you the senior officer I requested?
I'm Detective Phelps, and this is Detective Bukowski.
Have you any idea how long I've been waiting to speak with you? I am needed back at the consulate, and you keep me here like a common criminal.
All right, friend, let's take a deep breath and start all over again.
Mr. Valdez.
Consul General. I insist on my full title.
Good for you.
Where did you purchase the car?
My secretary and driver arranged the purchase. A disreputable place, Dewey Brothers by name. As soon as I can have it arranged, I will have my Hispano Suiza brought up from Buenos Aires.
Bought a Packard, Valdez? A snob like you doesn't drive an American car. I want answers or I'll smack you around the teeth.
William Dewey offered me a substantial bribe to make a purchase at his establishment. It is not unusual to make this kind of transaction in the civil service.
Well, tell that to the Argentine taxpayers.
Consul General, we have located your car. Can you tell us how it was stolen?
It must have been stolen from the consular garage. Terribly inconvenient, of course. I want the perpetrator soundly flogged.
Unfortunately, we don't do that here, your worship.
You have a pretty good idea who stole the car, don't you, Consul General? Are you going to tell me, or do I shake it out of you?
There's no call for violence. I suspect a disgruntled boy from the car dealership.
You have a name for this kid?
Gabriel, like the archangel. I have no surname.
So tell us about this kid, Gabriel. You had a run-in with him?
Mecánico. A presumptuous young man who did not know his place. He presumed to ask me questions.
We do a lot of presuming here in the United States, Consul General. It comes with the turf.
You fuck young boys, Valdez.
Are you a madman? This will cause an international incident.
You know, this is a remarkably patriotic interview session, especially considering that the developers were Australian. Also, he's a pretty good liar, you can tell there. He's mostly keeping eye contact. But we do have his notebook.
Danny, Ben, Miguel, Tristan, and Teddy. Full lips. Ring any bells?
I'm sure we can come to some arrangement.
Gabriel, spill it.
A beautiful but impertinent boy. I mentioned rendezvous and the young man went quite insane. I thought he was going to kill me. I was prepared to pay.
We'll be in touch, Consul General.
And he's in his 50s. Also lovely.
America's gonna understand. It's not about getting, it's about giving.
Coroner
It's
says
gonna go
it's going to be
a
at
year.
least a week to get an ID.
Finished with Valdez.
Thank God. I'll get rid of him in a couple of hours.
You think those Vice boys get any on the side?
Alright, now let's head on to Dewey Brothers.
Wrinkled was not one of the things I wanted to be when I grew up.
You're behind the wheel.
Mr. Valdez moves in some peculiar circles for an international bon vivant.
Ah, English, please. See, this is why nobody invites you out for drinks.
It's just very industrious of him to be so involved in matters of consular transportation.
All right, you're making it worse now. I think what you're trying to say is that lover boy in there is as full of crap as a Christmas goose.
That as well.
You know, I almost hate to say this, but at least Valdez is going after kids who would be over the age of consent in other states, and who do give consent before he does anything. I'm not trying to justify his actions or defend him. I'm just saying we're going to find some much worse people even before the end of the traffic desk. So there's a little perspective there.
Don't tell me, let me guess. You were making your way past the lot, caught sight of the new model 4-door, and couldn't help yourself. You could see yourself in that car and just had to take a closer look. Well, I can't say as I blame you.
LAPD, Mac. We'd like to speak with the owner.
That's me, William Dewey, proprietor, at your service.
We're investigating the theft of a Packard belonging to the Argentine embassy. Are you missing a combination wrench?
I don't know, Detective, but I know how we can find out. Follow me.
Packard cars were a real car company. They went defunct in the 1950s after tying their fortunes to Studebaker, and both of them were independent of the big three Detroit automakers.
We keep all our tools in here.
Mind if we look around?
Be my guest. You sure you guys aren't interested in a new car? Huh? Maybe a used car. I have some nice used cars for guys of your wage bracket.
Why don't you give us some alone time, Dewey? Go sell some cars or whatever it is that you do here.
Interesting how thoroughly everything is organized around here. Every piece in its place.
That's not right.
Outlines for every single wrench of every single size.
One left.
Colored tape for every mechanic.
Gabriel Delgado is missing a 3/4.
Yeah, and it had red tape on it. The one at the crime scene. What else is around here, though? Yeah, that hammer isn't going to be anything. But what about this guy? I didn't want to look at the tools on his blanket. I wanted to talk with him, but apparently I can't.
Seems irrelevant.
That's just a regular license plate. A diplomatic vehicle got stolen, so we'll need diplomatic plates.
No good. We need diplomatic plates.
See? There's a variety on the wall there. But none of them are diplomatic. And that means that we found all the clues, or the lack of clues, apparently, that we're going to find in this shop. So let's go interview the man himself.
If you don't mind, we have a few questions. Packards are great cars, but this doesn't look like the kind of place favored by foreign embassies. How do you know Valdez?
I don't know Valdez. The embassy bought the car. All I know is he must know a quality car when he sees one.
Now, he's obviously lying, but that is a stony poker face.
And I know a shyster when I see one. You and Valdez are in this together.
Me and Valdez? I hardly know him. Valdez wouldn't wipe his shoes with me.
Fortunately, we know differently.
We found your contact details in Valdez's notebook. He had to be calling you for something, Dewey.
Okay. So I met Valdez in a bar. We cut a deal and he bought the car through the embassy. I cut him some change on the side. It happens all the time.
Where can we find Delgado?
I don't know. He sure as hell isn't here.
Now he's getting antsy.
You're lying. You've got him holed up somewhere.
I'm having nothing to do with that kid. You can't prove any different.
You don't ask, you never find out. Address, Dewey, or my partner shoves your head in a car door.
Okay, all right. Apartment 3, 103 Hill Street. And tell him from me, if he ever shows his face around here again, I'm gonna kick his butt from here to Kingdom Come.
You know, I kind of like the shit-eating grin he's got on the notebook sketch.
A wrench from this dealership was used to strip the wheels from a Packard last night, Mr. Dewey. A couple of Hispanics were seen taking parts.
We've had a spate of thefts ourselves. Comes with the location. Thieving bastards to steal anything the minute your back is turned.
Stop lying to me, Dewey. The thieves work for you.
You can't prove that. Go ahead and try.
You're off the hook. For now. What are you hiding, Dewey? Spill it. You don't want the LAPD getting too interested in this place.
So I hire a few illegals. It's cheaper than hiring returning GIs. They have less attitude. Downside is, they're a little light-fingered.
Thank you for your help, Mr. Dewey.
No problem. God damn that kid. I'm just an honest car salesman. Seems like you just don't know who you can trust these days.
Going to movies, Dewey. You're missing your calling. Time to visit Gabriel Delgado. See how good his excuse is.
You know, in a sense, he actually is employing these thieves. It's just, you know, he's not hiring them to steal things.
You can drive.
Yeah, we're gonna take one of the Packards. They're actually pretty nice cars.
That's the guy.
You drive. I need to go over the case notes.
Moron for you.
That sign isn't gonna disappear either.
You read this story in the Examiner about the Navy developing three-dimensional movies?
What's a dimension?
What do you want my stopping?
You know, like a graph. Vertical axis is Y and horizontal is X.
Well, that's clear as mud.
Third dimension would be Z. So things would be popping out of the screen.
That's ridiculous. Scare people out of the theater.
God's name would want that. I don't know. People scoffed at the idea of talkies in color. Look what we have now.
No, but it'll make a pleasure to stay awake.
Well, as it turns out, people didn't really want it. At least at the time. But, you know, give it another 60, 70 years. Maybe then the technology will get far enough ahead.
Okay, let's see what Gabriel has to say for himself.
I just hope our Archangel hasn't already flown.
What the hell is this guy doing?
Okay, he's had enough.
I just bumped into the guy because he was walking in front of me. It looks like all the doors here have gold handles. So I'm just going to have to guess which one is the right one. I mean, I could look at that pile of mail there in the corner, but that would be too easy. Instead, I'm going to try and look it up, see if we've got it recorded anywhere. No, we don't have his exact address. Which, again, Dewey apparently knew offhand. So let's just try this door. Oh good, it's the right one.
Yet.
LAPD, ma'am. We're looking for Gabriel Delgado.
Gabriel?
We're from the police. Policia, you understand?
Yes, I understand. Could you come inside?
What is your name?
Ana Rodriguez.
Is Gabriel Delgado here, Ms. Rodriguez?
No. What do you want with Gabriel? Is he in trouble?
Stay where you are, Miss Rodriguez. We need to take a look around.
But he is not here. I have told you.
Check out the surrounds. I'll stay with the broad.
Now, what's this?
So how far along are you, Anna?
Souvenirs are a dumb move.
Right. So how's it going to be when you go into labor and he's not around?
You are wrong about Gabriel. He will be a good father. Already he works hard to provide for us.
Unless you help us here, Anna, your little one won't be seeing Papa for a very long time.
A very religious household around here.
Optimistic, Cole.
I mean, that's sort of a traditional feature of Hispanic immigrants. Is that they aren't just Catholic.
Give me anything to go on.
They are very Catholic.
It doesn't appear to be connected.
Yeah, there is something about religion in every room of this house. Aside from this, of course.
Difficult to tell whether it's the suspect vehicle from the scene. Certainly Gabriel's pride and joy.
Yeah, if he's gonna take a picture of himself washing it.
Serving breakfast for two, Anna? You should have cleared up.
Something on the refrigerator, but nothing we care about. There is more stuff out here in the back, however. Apparently, Rodriguez and Delgado, unmarried couple living together, mind you, another interesting note. Apparently they also rent the shed back here.
It looks like Valdez gets his wheel back.
Yep, that's the one missing and the spare.
Diplomatic license plates.
And you'll notice that it's on a giant stack of ordinary license plates. There's also some fenders stacked up against one of the walls. And a bunch of other car parts as well. That's a different apartment, so we'll just ignore that.
You're in serious trouble, Miss Rodriguez.
But Gabriel is not here. I have done nothing wrong.
Maybe not, but you are an accomplice.
Why did he steal the car, Anna?
The customer insulted him. He has his honor, no?
He steals cars to support you and care for the baby?
How can you say that? What makes you say that?
Oh, nothing.
Sorry. Sometimes you have to shake the tree to see what falls out. His honor, Anna?
He said Dewey's friend tried to make a woman out of him. He no longer respects this man, Dewey. He took the car to show this maricon that he is a man.
Some man.
Tell us the truth, Anna. Has Gabriel been here?
I haven't seen him for at least 3 nights.
You keep lying to me, and I'll send you and your baby to jail.
He lives here, but he hasn't come home. I swear it.
That is so incredibly, obviously not true.
Enough, Anna. There are signs all over this place that he's been back.
He was here last night. I have never seen him so angry. He went out to his shed and put some things in it. I don't know what, and I don't want to know. I love him.
We found a license plate matching our stolen vehicle in the shed. Add in the assortment of parts, and we can make Gabriel for a dozen other thefts. It's time to get serious, Anna.
You must ask these questions of Gabriel. I know nothing of these car parts.
Then tell us where he is! If your baby is born in prison, Anna, the corrections officers will take it from you. You will see your son or daughter through a metal grate for half an hour a week.
The start line is on 1st and Santa Fe. There is a spillway under the bridge that leads to the river. Many policia have wrecked trying to follow him.
We will put in a good word for you, Anna. As far as we're concerned, this sits with Gabriel.
Start line? That sounds like a street race to me. It's gotten out of hand this last year. No wonder Delgado has such an eye for fine automobiles.
We know where the kid is. Let's go stop these clowns and get them off the streets.
Alright, and let's do it in our brand new Packard.
The cops have been talking about on the radio. Want another accommodation?
It's going to be a race in the near future. Also, why does a dealership car have actual license plates?
What kind of man leaves his pregnant girlfriend at home while he goes off to play cards?
Pregnant girlfriends aren't always a barrel of laughs. Everyone needs to let off a little steam. Some guys wouldn't come back home at all.
Are you talking from experience?
I hate this part of town.
Quick as we shut one of these races down, another one springs up somewhere else. Kids used to steal cars to sell them. Now they just want to wrap them around a lamppost. The next 16-year-old I have to peel off the sidewalk, you're calling the mother.
I've had enough of those to last me a lifetime.
Okay, this is gonna take a while, I can tell. So let's just skip into the future.
There's the red Ford. That's Delgado right there.
Quick! They're getting away!
Phelps, 1247. Requesting assistance at 1st and Santa Fe. Reports of an illegal street.
And we're back in our partner's vehicle.
Stay on Delgado. You're getting away. You're gonna lose him.
Yeah, the car chases have a lot of rubber banding. And also the two rival vehicles here are very much tap them and they'll break.
Step on it, Phelps. Take him out.
Enough games, Phelps. Take this guy out.
Well, I would love to, but, you know, the game AI won't let me. Luckily, by the time you get to the spillway, it's pretty much always going to be just you and him.
Enough games, Phelps. Take this guy out. Lay into his wheel arches. Come on.
Well, I would love to, and I am, except that the pit maneuver doesn't actually work in this game.
Come on, get the beanbag hitting a red Ford.
Like, seriously, it never works. It's kind of annoying. Fortunately, the rubber banding works both ways, so we'll never get too far behind him unless we really screw up.
God damn it, Cole, hold it steady.
And pretty much no matter how he lands, he is going to bust his car as soon as he touches that train. Or immediately thereafter.
Gabriel Delgado, you're under arrest for Grand Theft Auto.
Fuck you, puto! You should speak to the maricón. Valdez, I showed him. Now who's the man? I should have burned his fucking car.
I wouldn't really say that either of you two are men.
You got a foreign dignitary outed as a fruit and a kitty raper, a car dealer we're gonna let slide for the kickbacks, and a street punk car thief who sure as hell won't be taking liberties with other people's autos again anytime soon. That, Detective Phelps, is not a bad haul. You keep your chin low and your hands high, and you keep bringing me clearances just like that one. That's textbook policing, and we need more of it in this department.
And Stefan gets a nod. Like, what the hell, man? Luckily, only minor damage to the vehicle and to the city.
You have any plans for weekend Liberty, Jack?
My sisters have been working in Los Angeles in a bomber factory. They're coming down to visit. I'm meeting them at the station at 6.
Good for you, Jack. Are they cute?
They're my sisters, Hank.
Attention! Final inspection before Liberty. Good job, Kelso.
Are we going somewhere, gentlemen? Full inspection. It had better be exceptional if any of you want liberty this weekend. Kelso, this carbine. The bore is dirty.
No, it isn't.
Are you arguing with me, Kelso?
Do what you need to do, Sergeant. You know the bore is immaculate.
Weekend liberty canceled. 2-day field drill. Clean this rifle.
No.
Do you know the penalty for insubordination, Kelso?
Jack, don't do it.
Forget him, Hank.
He doesn't have what it takes.
Are you two finished? Are you going to clean this rifle?
No, Sergeant. Cole is right. I'm going to stop playing games and join a rifle company and fight the real enemy.
What the hell is an MCRD sergeant doing at OCS? Right, anyway, today we'll be straying away from the usual noir suspects in order to discuss a classic movie set in Los Angeles, which is all about the troubles of American youth in general, and post-war teenagers and young adults in particular. Perhaps you've heard of it. It's called Rebel Without a Cause. The story about the story. Throughout the 1940s, 50s, and to some extent the 60s, there was a genre of films which I feel is best described as teen-sploitation. The movies would follow the lives of teenagers and young adults as they performed some crazy new fad, or at least what the filmmakers thought was a crazy new fad, and while the film's plots were centered around some heavy-handed moralistic message, the only reason people actually watched these movies was to see crazy young people doing crazy and frequently illegal things. The Mystery Science Theater 3000 catalog is positively brimming with these movies. Untamed Youth, Wild Rebels, The Hellcats, Daddy-O, The Beatniks. I could go on. So to say the least, 1955's Rebel Without a Cause has a lot of company, but there are a few things that make it stand out from the average teenage gang and angst fest. The first and most obvious difference is the performance of James Dean, the lead actor, who managed to turn what easily could have been a preachy melodrama into something real. Dean's Hollywood career spanned only 3 films, East of Eden, Rebel Without a Cause, and Giant, but his acting, improvisation, and nascent directing skills were so apparent from just this small sampling that it was already obvious what kind of talent he could have brought to Tinseltown. Sadly, his life was cut short in 1955 when he got into a high-speed car accident at a highway junction, before Rebel or Giant had even been released. It's a bit unclear who was at fault for the incident, but considering that pretty much everybody involved is or would have been dead of old age by this point, it doesn't particularly matter anymore. Incidentally, the other 2 main actors also came to untimely ends later in life. Sal Mineo, who played John Plato Crawford, was stabbed to death in 1976 by a drug-addled mugger who only wanted the money in his wallet. And Natalie Wood, who played Judy, managed to get to 1981 before she drowned in what was probably a boating accident off Catalina Island. Aside from its plot and its actors, Rebel also carries the distinction of being one of the first movies to be filmed in CinemaScope, a camera technology which allowed studios to film in high-quality color in a widescreen format. You may have noticed from the Maltese Falcon and The Big Sleep that old films used a 4:3 aspect ratio, the same used by televisions up until the 2000s. In the early 50s, however, the film industry collectively shifted to widescreen and color as a way to combat the growing influence of television, to give movie theaters something unique to offer. Of course, TVs would eventually adapt, and the Cold War between the big screen and the little screen continues to this day. One final word before I begin the story. According to some people, specifically queer studies film critics, Rebel Without a Cause contains some blink and you'll miss it homosexual subtext between Jim Stark, James Dean's character, and Plato. Personally, I don't see it. Plato seems like he's looking more for a father, or at least a big brother, rather than a lover. I figure the reason why anyone thinks the relationship could have been different is because Sal Mineo came out as bisexual during the 60s, and queer critics started looking back through his filmography for evidence. So it's not what I would call a very direct reading of the film, but it is an interesting historical note. The story. Rebel Without a Cause starts out with some unusually active credits, thanks to James Dean as Jim Stark improvising what a crazy drunk guy would do if he stumbled across one of those symbol monkey toys on the street. When the movie proper begins, Jim has been brought to Juvenile Hall in Los Angeles for public drunkenness. And in a rather clever move, this is also where we meet the other 2 principal protagonists. The first is Judy, who was found wandering the streets alone after her father caught her wearing makeup and called her a dirty tramp. She's very upset with this, to the point where Natalie Wood set a new Hollywood record for longest crying scene. But she gets even more upset when she hears that her mother's the one who will be coming to pick her up. To say the least, her relationship with her father is complicated. She also leaves a compact behind on her chair. Next, we see John Crawford, whose friends call him Plato. Mind you, John doesn't have any friends, which would mean that his nickname is self-assigned. And as we all know, self-assigned nicknames are the saddest kind. Before going in to see an officer, Jim offers Plato his jacket, but Plato refuses. Giving jackets will become a motif, by the way, so keep that in mind. The reason Plato's in juvie is because he shot his neighbor's puppies with his mother's .45. And when the officer asks him if he's getting any psychiatric help, Plato explains that his mother thinks they're too expensive and that they don't work. But based on what happens later, yeah, Plato really needs some professional help. Now this is just an amateur opinion about a fictional character here, but John seems to have borderline personality disorder. He forms deep attachments easily. He goes through powerful mood swings, and he otherwise has an unstable personality. It certainly doesn't help that Plato's father abandoned his family and his mother is constantly away, so he thinks that she abandoned him too. He does have a nurse, but he knows she's not his mom, and she's simply not equipped to keep Plato in check. Finally, we see Jim Stark's family. His father's a pushover, his mother's a nag, his grandmother doesn't help, and apparently his family tends to move as soon as Jim causes trouble, so he also has issues with putting down roots. As they argue, Jim spots Judy's compact and pockets it, and then he screams, "You're tearing me apart!" which I'm sure used to be a moving line before Tommy Wiseau and The Room turned it into a joke. Seeing Jim's outburst, the case officer, Ray Fremick, pulls him into his office to speak privately. Jim tries to throw a punch, but the officer throws him to the floor and suggests that he kick the desk to let out his aggression. He does so, and there's this sudden loud musical sting right at the end which was apparently added to cover the nervous laughter of the audience. They also discuss Jim's other big problem, which is the way he reacts whenever anyone calls him a chicken. Since his dad's a milksop and he doesn't want to be one, that particular insult tends to hit a nerve. Jim suggests that his dad should just straight up punch his mother and maybe that'll make her happy. Which is a comment to cringe at today, but to be fair, number one, the movie was made before second wave feminism began, and number two, Jim's home life really is dysfunctional, even if his solution isn't the right one. The next morning, Jim's getting ready for school when he notices that Judy lives next door. Notably, this breakfast scene is the last time we'll see Jim's grandmother. Jim hurries after Judy and invites her to go to school with him in his car, but she tells him she's already got a ride. The kids. Within 10 seconds, a car packed with teenagers pulls up and she squeezes in with the rest, giving one of them a kiss and giving Jim a significant look. Jim gets in his car and then asks the kids for directions to school, but they give him a hard time instead. At school, Jim gets in trouble right away for stepping on the school crest, and while he apologizes, the gang from earlier is watching him. Later on, Jim manages to be late in getting to the observatory field trip, another mark against him, and when he sees the gang goofing off during the presentation, Jim lets out a big moo when Taurus comes up. Sadly, the gang is not amused. Or possibly they're too amused. Either way, they decide they're going to pick on Jim. And as Jim delays going outside to confront them, he connects with Plato, who informs him that the gang is called the Wheels, and the leader's name, Judy's boyfriend, is Buzz. As they exit the building and keep watch for the Wheels, Plato tells Jim about an abandoned mansion nearby where they could lay low for a while. Sadly, the gang gets to Jim's car first and punctures his tire with a switchblade to goad him into confronting them. Jim doesn't react as he gets a crowbar out of his trunk, but as soon as they start clucking at him, Jim gets real pissed off. Buzz then invites Jim to a knife fight, and while Jim refuses to accept at first, he gets going once they call him chicken again. They trade cuts for a while, and when they're interrupted by the observatory security, they decide on having a chickie run for a rematch at 8 o'clock. When Jim goes home to clean himself off, he notices his dad in an apron cleaning up a fallen dinner tray. Since this is pretty demeaning for a 1950s father, Jim is initially amused, but then he gets angry. Meanwhile, Judy is showing her father more affection than he thinks is appropriate, which upsets him, and which then upsets her. There's this suggestion of an Electra complex, but it doesn't go much beyond the two of them being awkward about Judy's age. After that, we cut back to Jim, who asks his dad whether he should go through with the chickie run. But his dad is unable to give him a straight answer, even after he sees the cuts on Jim's chest. So Jim puts on his iconic red jacket and storms out. When he arrives at the cliffside, we finally learn out what a chickie run is. Two people drive stolen cars towards the edge of a cliff. The first person to jump out is a chicken. Jim and Buzz bond a bit before they begin, and during their conversation they say one of the film's famous lines. Why do we do this? You gotta do something, now don't you? Meanwhile, Plato is speaking with Judy and making up stories about his grand friendship with Jim. The race begins, and while Jim jumps out in time, Buzz's jacket gets caught in the door handle and he goes over the edge. Some of the gang members blame Jim, but they let him leave in peace. Judy contemplates the cliff, but Jim shakes his head and pulls her back. Jim drops Judy and Plato off at his place, at which point Plato asks to go in and writes down Jim's address when he says no. Once Jim gets inside, we begin one of the most famous scenes of the movie, which James Dean actually blocked out himself. Jim's parents were waiting for him to come home, and Jim winds up explaining the whole situation and tells his folks that he's going to go to the police. Both his parents tell him not to, tell him that he shouldn't be the only one to get in trouble, and the three of them wind up on the staircase in order of the family hierarchy. Jim demands that his father stand up for him, but he can't. So Jim grabs him, throws him down, and starts choking him in an absolute rage. He stops before doing anything permanent and storms out, kicking a painting of his grandmother because apparently she's just gone from the movie at this point. When Jim goes to the police station, some of the gang members are coming out and decide that he's there to squeal. And he is, but he isn't able to do so since Officer Ray Fremick is out and none of the other cops bother listening to him. So he calls Judy, but Judy's father hangs up on him. Still, Judy overhears and she's outside on the back fence when Jim gets back. They're talking about life and death when they hear a radio request, which is a message from the gang that they're after Jim, and so they decide to go to Plato's abandoned mansion for a while. Meanwhile, the gang members hassle Plato and get his address book, so Plato grabs his mother's gun and jumps on his scooter to warn Jim. The gang gets to the house first and nails a live chicken to Jim's front porch, and at this point, his parents finally realize the kind of deep shit that their son is in. A moment later, Plato arrives at the back door, and when he hears Jim is gone, he knows exactly where he went. After that is a quick montage of everyone's parents and guardians calling the police. Plato catches up with Jim and Judy soon enough, so the three protagonists have some fun goofing off and exploring the mansion for a while. Plato falls asleep on the veranda, so Jim and Judy cover him with his coat, laugh at his mismatched socks, and then go off to continue exploring. As they relax by a fire, Judy admits that she's in love with Jim, in love for the very first time, but eventually the gang shows up to start the movie's climax. The first person they find is Plato, and although he manages to fend them off in the pool and then escape into the mansion, the whole experience of being seemingly abandoned again and attacked has driven him off the deep end. He shoots one of the gang members, and when Jim shows his face, Plato tries to shoot him too. When the police show up, Plato runs into the woods, and Jim, Judy, and the cops follow him to the observatory. At the same time, Ray has Jim's parents in his car when he responds to a call for backup. Jim and Judy manage to sneak in past the police cordon, and Jim does his best to calm Plato down. He manages to do a decent job of it, giving Plato his jacket in the process, but he doesn't do it well enough. Ultimately, he's too non-confrontational, just like his father. And while he gets the gun from Plato and pulls the magazine out, he doesn't realize that they're still around in the chamber, and he gives it back since he doesn't realize how the cops will react when they see Plato holding it. He talks Plato into coming out of the planetarium by saying all his friends are outside, but when Plato realizes the cops are not his friends, he flips his lid and starts running again. In the end, the cops shoot Plato down. As Jim grieves for his friend, his dad comes up and promises to do better by him in the future, offering his jacket in turn. The film ends with a tracking crane shot of everyone leaving as an observatory employee goes in to start a new day. The analysis. In 1946, Dr. Spock, no, not Mr. Spock, Dr. Spock, published a book called The Common Sense Book for Baby and Child Care, which started a revolution. Up to that point, the lingering Victorian philosophy was that parents should be harsh with their kids because the world is harsh, and you'll spoil them if you show them any affection. Dr. Spock's work represented the first fruits of applying psychology to childcare, and he determined that the opposite was true. Children need a bedrock of love and affection, along with some solid discipline, in order to face the rest of the world in all its horrible glory. He argued that mothers and fathers should trust their instincts and treat their children as unique individuals rather than blindly listening to child care books and pediatricians and strictly following meaningless schedules. At the same time, World War II jump-started the field of child psychiatry, thanks to collecting background information and behavioral results from all its soldiers, incidentally creating a set of statistics that linked a bad home life to stuff like insubordination, desertion, and dishonorable discharge. This was the point when people first started to realize that the way parents behaved could directly and permanently affect who their children would become as adults. And as genetic theory solidified in the 50s, people first asked that question, nature or nurture? What has a bigger impact on who a child will become, the environment or genetics? Teensploitation movies were as much a result of the growing interest in child and developmental psychology as they were a way to get around the production code. It was a young field at the time, so everyone was throwing out their pet theories as to why the damn kids are always acting up. Nowadays we have piles of statistics and case studies, so the answers are more clear than before. But 60 years ago it was still very much anybody's guess. Rebel Without a Cause has endured because it got unusually close to the truth. Uncomfortably close. And it did so despite everything the censors did to try to water it down. And a large part of the reason was James Dean. Thanks for joining me again for today's film review, and I hope you'll join me next time for another noir classic which doesn't bring up the sentence that is its title until the last 3 minutes, and which is about two people who make a series of bad decisions.